All right, I'm 3-0. My last three extra daily bets on BrockPage.com. And if you want to access today's extra daily bet, the link for that play is in the description section below. $1,000 bettors are up over $2,700 during that span. And if you want to see my current personal bet record, you can do that right now for free by going to BrockPage.com. My record's located right there on the homepage. Now you may be wondering what the difference is between what I do here on my YouTube channel and what I do on my website. Well, what I do here on YouTube is I'll handicap the entire slate of games in any given sport, side and total. And what I do on BrockPage.com is I actually share with you which one of these free YouTube picks on my channel that I'm actually betting on personally. Now we currently have over 975 members who are signed up and active on that website. Just remember, guys, if you sign up for a package here today on BrockPage.com, you're actually going to get full access to that membership through the end of March. So you're going to get a couple of days of access to that membership. I always tell folks in every single video, the earlier in the month you sign up, the better. You're going to end up getting billed the day you sign up and then the first of every month following that. But with that, guys, let's go ahead and dive into some free content. We're going to start off with the Mavs taking on the Cavs. 7 o'clock Eastern tip-off on Wednesday, March 30th, 2022. Happy Wednesday to you. The weekend's right around the corner. We're halfway there. Happy hump day to you. Now, Dallas is -5 in this matchup here. Total's 214. But despite being favored by a couple of buckets on the road here, Dallas is in the second of a back-to-back here this evening as they travel all the way to Cleveland here today. And despite their big offensive performance last night, Dallas really hasn't been great with the ball in their hands. The Mavericks are scoring just 106 points per contest, and they're in the bottom 10 in offensive rebounding. When it comes to shooting the three ball in this one, well, Dallas is almost, they're amongst the worst in the Western Conference in that particular category. Now they're taking on a Cleveland squad who's 24-14 in the Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse this season. And they covered the number 22 times during that span. Now the Cavs have consistently played incredibly tough defense this season. These guys allow only 102 points a game at home. And they're limiting their opponents to just 32% shooting from three land in their own building. Now scoring-wise, Darius Garland's averaging 21.5 points a game, along with 3 boards, 8 assists. Meanwhile, Kevin Love makes nearly 40% of his three-pointers, and he's also averaging 13.5 points a game. When it comes to shooting the basketball in this one, the Cavs are actually in the top 10 in the NBA in offensive field goal percentage. Now, injury-wise, Rondo, Wade, and Mobley are out tonight for Cleveland. Meanwhile, for Dallas on the other side of things, Brown and Burke are questionable. Now, total-wise, the Mavs went 70% to the under in their last 10 outings. They're also 21-16 to the under on the road this year. Meanwhile, Cleveland is 25-13 to the under as the official home team. I'm going to go ahead and lean toward Cleveland +5 and the under 214. Next ball game I have for you, it is going to be Magic versus the Wizards, 7 o'clock Eastern tip-off. Washington's -3 with a total at 219.5. Now, the Wizards covered in 4 out of their last 7. And they beat the likes of Golden State, Detroit, and the Lakers during that stretch. As bad as they've been for the most part of the season, the Wizards are still playing .500 basketball in the nation's capital. Now, the Wizards are doing a nice job shooting the basketball from the field this year. These guys are actually in the top 10 in the NBA in offensive field goal percentage. Kristaps Porzingis is scoring over 20.5 points per contest with his new team, along with 8 rebounds, 3 assists. Meanwhile, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope is scoring over a dozen points a game himself, along with 3 rebounds. They're taking on an Orlando team who failed to cover in 5 out of their last 7. And they win only 25% of their contests away from home. Now, scoring-wise, the Magic's averaging only 104 points a game. When it comes to the injury report in this one, Carter and Suggs are out. Meanwhile, for the Wizards, Kuzma's out. Carey is questionable. Now, total-wise, Washington's 24-14 to the over in the Capital One Arena. and that's good for over 63% in that category. Meanwhile, Orlando saw 5 out of their last 8 get over the posted total themselves. 7-3 to the over in their last 10 against the Wizards. So if you're into historical trends, you certainly want to think about that one there. I'm going to go ahead and lean toward Washington -3 in the over 219.5. Next ball game, it is going to be Nuggets versus the Pacers, 7 o'clock Eastern tip-off. Denver's -9.5, totals 232 and a hook. And even though Denver clearly outmatches Indiana in this one, they did fail to cover in 4 out of their last 6 ball games. They're having a tough time guarding the field goal. Matter of fact, the Nuggets are currently in the bottom 10 in the NBA in defensive field goal percentage. Now they're taking on an Indiana team who does a great job getting to the basket at home themselves. The Pacers are actually in the top 10 in the NBA in offensive field goal percentage at home. They're scoring 114 points a night in the Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Buddy Hield's dropping 18.5 points a game, along with 5 rebounds, 4 assists. Meanwhile, Tyrese Halliburton scoring over 16.5 points per contest himself, along with 4 rebounds, 9 assists. When it comes to the scoring in this one, the Pacers do like to get off to a hot start in their own arena. These guys are actually in the top 5 in the NBA in both first and they're in the top 5 in the NBA in both first and second quarter scoring at home. Now, injury-wise, Brogdon, Batazzi, Jackson, and Washington are questionable. Duarte is out. Meanwhile, for Denver on the other side of things, Green is questionable for them. Najee is out as well. Now, total-wise, Denver went 7-2 to the over in their last 9 ball games. They also went 60% to the over in their last 10 against Indiana. So once again, if you're into historical trends, plenty of overs to go around. Meanwhile, the Pacers are 25-13 to the over at the Gainbridge Fieldhouse, and that's good for 66% in that category. I'm going to lean toward Denver -9.5 in the over 232 and a hook. Next ball game, it is going to be Hornets versus the Knicks, 7:30 p.m. East. Charlotte's -2 with the total at 224. Now, Charlotte won 7 out of their last 9. They failed to cover only 3 times during that stretch. And in addition to having a winning record on the road this year, the Hornets are amongst the best scoring teams in the East. Matter of fact, Charlotte's in the top 3 in the NBA in scoring on average per contest on the road. Miles Bridges averages over 20 points a game, along with 7 rebounds, 3 assists. Meanwhile, LaMelo Ball is averaging 20 points a game himself, along with 6 boards, 7 assists as well. When it comes to shooting the 3 ball, Charlotte's in the top 3 in the NBA in offensive 3-point percentage away from home. They're taking on a Knicks team who has a losing record at Madison Square Garden. They're also in the bottom 5 in home scoring. And when it comes to shooting the basketball from the field, New York's also in the bottom 5 in offensive field goal percentage. Now, injury-wise, Noel and Grimes are out. Meanwhile, for Charlotte on the other side, they're mostly healthy for the exception of Gordon Hayward still. When it comes to the number, Charlotte saw overs recently with the likes of Dallas, OKC, and this very New York team. Meanwhile, the Knicks saw 3 out of their last 5 get over the line themselves. I'm going to go ahead and lean towards Charlotte -2 in the over 224. Next contest, it is going to be Timberwolves versus the Raptors, 7:30 p.m. East. Toronto's -3 with a total at 229.5. Now, Toronto won their last 3 straight. They also posted a record of 9-2 straight up in their last 11. Now, this Raptors team has really been catapulted by their defensive play. These guys allow only 106 points a game in the Scotiabank Arena. And that actually puts them in the top 10 in the NBA in home points allowed. Now, scoring-wise, on the other end of the court, Pascal Siakam's averaging 22.5 points per contest, along with 8 boards, 5 assists. Meanwhile, Freddie VanVleet is drilling nearly 40% of his 3 balls. He's also scoring 20.5 points a game. Now, they're taking on a Minnesota team who lost 3 out of their last 4. They also allowed 123 points a game in those losses. The Timberwolves also have themselves a losing record on the road this year, and they're giving up nearly 118 points a game in those road contests. Now, when it comes to the injury report in this one, Beasley and McDaniels are out for Minnesota. Meanwhile, for Toronto on the other side, Flynn is out, Birch is questionable. And when it comes to the scoring in this one, the Raptors are 21-15 to the over in Toronto. Meanwhile, Minnesota's gone 74% to the over in all of their road games. I'm going to lean toward Toronto -3 and the over 229.5. Next contest I have for you, it is going to be Heat versus the Celtics, 7:30 p.m. East. Boston's -4 with the total at 214.5. Now, the Celtics won 11 out of their last 13. And they covered the point spread in 77% of those ball games. Now, the Celtics are also 26-12 straight up in the Garden. They allow fewer points per contest than any other team in the association. Now, when it comes to offensive production in this one, Jason Tatum scoring over 27 points a night, along with 8 rebounds, 4 assists. Meanwhile, Jaylen Brown scoring over 23 points a game himself, along with 6 rebounds, 3 assists. And speaking of rebounding the basketball, the Celtics are actually in the top 5 in the association in offensive boards per game. Now, they're taking on a Miami team who lost 4 out of their last 5. And they've been one of the worst covering teams in the league recently. Miami actually covered the number only 2 times since March 7th. And they posted a record of just 2-8 against the spread during that time frame. Now, when it comes to offensive production in this one, for some reason, the Heat really tends to shut it down late in ball games. Miami's actually ranking in the bottom 10 in the NBA in fourth quarter scoring away from home. Now, injury-wise, it's Robinson, Martin, and Vincent who are questionable here tonight for the Heat. And when it comes to the total, Miami saw unders recently with the likes of Brooklyn, New York, and Detroit. Meanwhile, Boston, on the other side, they saw unders recently with the likes of Golden State, Dallas, and Charlotte. I'm going to go ahead and lean toward Boston -4 and the under 214.5. Next contest, it is going to be Hawks versus the Thunder, 8 o'clock Eastern start time. Atlanta's -12.5 with the total at 228. But despite laying over a dozen points in this one, the Hawks failed to cover in 6 out of their last 10. And they actually have a real tough time covering the number on the road. Matter of fact, the Hawks have gone just 12-25 against the spread when traveling this season. And that's good. That's good for, it's not good, it's bad. But 12-25 against the spread when traveling, that's good for only 32% in that category. Now, Atlanta's biggest problem is their defensive play. They're in the bottom 5 in guarding the field goal. And they're also amongst the worst in the East in points allowed per game. They're taking on an Oklahoma City team who's been absolute covering machines themselves. These guys are 7-0 against the spread in their last 7 straight. And they've also covered in over 62% of their home games. A lot of guys on the court here tonight who you're probably not going to recognize. But regardless, OKC, they do tend to just get the job done against the number. Now, injury-wise, Favors and Williams are out. Mann is questionable. Meanwhile, for Atlanta on the other side, Gallinari, Hunter, and Johnson are questionable. Mays and Collins are out. Now, total-wise, the Hawks saw unders recently against the likes of Detroit, New Orleans, and Memphis. Meanwhile, OKC saw unders recently with the likes of Denver, Orlando, and Minnesota. I'm going to lean toward Oklahoma City +12.5 and the under 228. Next ball game, it is going to be Kings versus the Rockets, 8 o'clock Eastern start time. Sacramento's -2.5 with the total at 230. Now, the Kings got the W in 2 out of their last 3 ball games. And they also posted a record of 6-3 against the spread in their last 9. Harrison Barnes is scoring over 16.5 points a game for the Kings. 5 rebounds, 2.5 assists for Barnes. Now, Harrison's also drilling nearly 41% of his three-pointers. Meanwhile, Davion Mitchell, he's averaging 11 points a game himself, along with a couple of rebounds and 3 assists. Now, they're taking on a Houston team who allows more points per contest than any other team in the NBA. And no real surprise here, Houston's currently dead last in guarding the field goal. Now, injury-wise, Gordon, Schroeder, and Wood are out. Meanwhile, for Sacramento on the other side, Lamb, Len, and Jackson are questionable. De'Aaron Fox is also out for tonight's game. When it comes to the numbers, Sacramento went 70% to the over in their last 10 outings. Meanwhile, Houston saw overs against the likes of San Antonio, Phoenix, and New Orleans. I'm going to lean towards Sacramento minus 2.5 and the over 230. Next ball game, it is going to be Grizzlies versus the Spurs, 8:30 p.m. East. Memphis is minus 5.5, totals 233. Now the Grizzlies won their last 5 straight. They also got the W in 9 out of their last 10. Memphis also played quite well on the road this season. They're 25-13 straight up when traveling. They covered the point spread in 66% of those contests. Desmond Bane's drilling 43% of his three-pointers. He's also scoring over 18 points a game. Meanwhile, teammate Dylan Brooks, he's averaging 18 points a game himself, along with 3 rebounds, 2.5 assists. When it comes to offensive production in this one, the Grizzlies are averaging more points per contest than any other team in the association. They're also first in the league in offensive rebounding. They're taking on a San Antonio team who's been terrible at home this season. The Spurs got the W in only 14 out of 37 games in the AT&T Center. They're giving up 115 points per contest in those home games. Now, injury-wise, Langford is out. Walker's questionable. Meanwhile, for Memphis on the other side of things, Tilly's out. Jackson is questionable for them. When it comes to the scoring, Memphis went 60% to the over in their last 10 outings. They're also 22-16 to the over as the official road team. Meanwhile, San Antonio on the other side is 22-15 to the over in front of their own fans. I'm going to lean toward Memphis minus 5.5 and the over 233. Next ball game I have for you, it is going to be Suns versus the Warriors, 10 o'clock Eastern start time. Phoenix is minus 6 with the total at 222.5. Now the Suns are on an 8-game winning streak, and they lost only 2 games since February 27th. The Suns also play their best basketball on the road. They're currently 30-6 straight up when traveling. They're actually leading the entire NBA in shooting from the field. Devin Booker, he's averaging 26.5 points a game, along with 5 rebounds and 4 assists. Meanwhile, the big guy, DeAndre Ayton, he's averaging double-digit rebounds a game, along with 17 points a night. No real surprise here. Phoenix is currently in the top 3 in the NBA in scoring on average per contest. Now, they're taking on a Golden State squad who lost 6 out of their last 7, and they covered the number only once during that stretch. Now, the Warriors also allowed 114 points a game in those very losses I just mentioned. Now, injury-wise, the Warriors are still going to work without Steph Curry. Meanwhile, on the other side of things for Phoenix, McGee is out tonight. Johnson has been downgraded to doubtful. Now, total-wise, Phoenix saw unders recently with the likes of Philadelphia, Chicago, and Miami. They also went 80% to the under in their last 10 meetings with Golden State. Meanwhile, the Warriors are 24-14 to the under in the Chase Center. I'm going to lean toward Phoenix minus 6 and the under 222.5. And with that, guys, we're going to jump into our next and final matchup for the show. It is going to be Pelicans versus the Blazers, and that's going to be a 10 o'clock Eastern tip-off. Now, New Orleans is minus 13.5 in this one with the total at 226. And even though the Pelicans are heavily favored in this matchup here, they've certainly been bad on the road this year. New Orleans got the W in only 14 out of 36 road games, and that's good for just 38% in that particular category. Now, the Pels have actually had a pretty tough time scoring away from the Smoothie King Center this season. And to elaborate on that, they're averaging only 106 points a game in their travels. Now, no real surprise here. They're also in the bottom 10 in shooting from the field on the road. Now, they're taking on a Portland team who's got Brandon Williams in the lineup here today. Now, he's scoring over 14 points a game, along with 3 rebounds and 3 assists. Meanwhile, teammate Drew Eubanks, he's averaging over 13.5 points a game himself with Portland, along with 8 rebounds. Now, when it comes to the injury report, it's Winslow and Hart who are out. Meanwhile, for New Orleans, Valanciunas and Nance are questionable. Now, total-wise, New Orleans went 5-1 to the under in their last 6 outings. They're also 23-13 to the under as the official road team. Meanwhile, Portland on the other side went 4-2 to the under in their last 6 outings themselves. I'm going to lean toward Portland plus 13.5 and the under 226. And with that, guys, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on brockpage.com. Now, guys, once again, I have to remind you one more time that if you end up getting a membership here today on brockpage.com, it's a subscription-based platform, so you're going to get billed the day you sign up and then the first of every month following that. So if you do end up getting signed up here today, you're going to get access for 2 days to that content, and then you're going to get billed again on the 1st. So I always tell folks in every single video, the earlier in the month you sign up, the better. We utilize the Patreon platform, and that's just the way they do their billing cycle. They bill you the day you sign up, and then the 1st of every month following that. So may want to think about waiting until April 1st, but regardless, guys, if you want to get access to every single bet that I give out on that website, you're going to want to think about signing up for my board member package. But most importantly, guys, got to thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. Really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. And with that said, guys, happy Wednesday to you. Happy hump day to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my website at brockpage.com.